It's a bird.
It's a plane!
It's the Gloop guys.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Goot Guys Network. I'm Dr. Aaron.
And I'm Dr. Tom, and we're back again to bring you some health news and talk about steroids.
Steroids, yes. We got some exciting news as well. Before we start, I got a Christmas gift from my brother, trying to make it look okay. Sort of hard to see there because of the weird wall,
Good
but it
neon
says Goot
sign.
Guys. Yeah, it's a nice little neon sign.
Always good
Um,
on bar walls and home walls.
mhm. Now that I think about it, I probably could have just put it on that hook over there, but that's okay. We're gonna probably put it downstairs in our studio where we record. But that's a future me problem. Getting back into it. Thanks, brother and future sister-in-law. That was a nice gift.
Thank you guys. I know it was mainly for Aaron, but I'm also on this podcast and I appreciate you.
Also, Regina, thanks. Yeah, so the topic of the
Name the
day.
squirrel. Name the squirrel.
Yes, name the squirrel. We need a new name. We can't think of anything. And you're probably going to think of something better.
All right. Back to the fun topic of steroid use.
Yeah, so every once in a while I got recommended on YouTube these Jubilee videos. And the one that I saw today was, let me just make sure I got the name right. Taking steroids is cheating, a natural for steroid bodybuilders, a middle ground. So we figured that we could go through some of the prompts that they had to go through, give our takes, our thoughts. We are both natural athletes, as far as I can tell.
Yes.
You could probably tell by looking at us.
This body's built by Pop-Tarts. Sponsor me.
It's been chiseled through tough hamburgers and hot dogs. And a workout every once in a while as well. But like as we go through the topics, I watched the video, so maybe we'll talk about some of the stuff that other people said. I didn't watch the whole video. Disclaimer: I only watched half. What was that?
I watched a little bit of it.
That's true. The first prompt was steroids are dangerous and should not be normalized in fitness. So, Dr. Tom, what do you think?
So, I mean, I don't like to say that they're dangerous. Anything is dangerous depending on how it's used. That's where it gets that's like that line that you have to cross. So it's not that it's dangerous, it's that people use them at dangerous levels and they up their testosterone to levels that aren't found in humans naturally, which of course is the point of taking steroids, not to knock that. That's the reason why we're upping it, but we're upping it at godly levels that just your body can only take so much of it. Now, what gets dangerous after a certain point is that it starts to affect other systems in your body, whether it's affecting like your cardiac respiratory system, it starts to affect your kidneys and your liver and the filtration of your body and your blood. That's where it can start to get a little bit more dangerous. So I don't like to say that it's like it's dangerous and doesn't belong in fitness. Hey, maybe it can be used as a tool, but it's something that also needs to be monitored at a certain level. So if you want to, I mean, I've got friends who take them, and I don't think differently of them for the fitness and the physique that they've built. It's definitely impressive, and in certain fitness shows, you're actually allowed to take them. So it's not like it's completely illegal, but it's just something that's like, it's you have to just be careful with it. Like anything
So,
else.
basically, the prompt steroids are dangerous and should not be normalized in fitness. You would disagree with this prompt.
I disagree with it to an extent.
All right, so I'm actually going to take the other side. I mean, like you said, there are dangers to it, and if there are inherent dangers, then you gotta think about those things. Like you can't just ignore them, or you have to at least be educated about it too. It's like the guy in the video was talking about like if you want to do cocaine, just do cocaine if it makes you feel good. Like just
Don't
because
recommend
something,
that.
yeah, it's like a terrible idea. All the negative health effects. You can ask any addict that it's not a good thing that they're taking drugs, even if it makes you feel good.
And that, like, when that guy said that, like, the main difference with that is that, like, okay, testosterone can also have some health benefits,
Mm-hmm.
depending again on the level that you're using, on the level that you're taking, if it's required for your body, even if not, like, even if like me and you took a very small dosage of testosterone to up it, there would actually be some health benefits, but you also have to weigh in the detriments that our body could start producing less testosterone. Now we're going to be a little bit more reliant on it, and we still have to watch these other systems. When it comes to
Yeah.
drug use like that, there is zero benefit for any of that stuff.
No, it makes you feel good.
Yeah, no, it's not a good reasoning whatsoever when it comes
Yeah,
to
like literally every system in your body it's bad for. Like, don't do
nervous system
drugs,
is
or
getting
at least like
shot.
cocaine or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
just don't
kidneys,
do that.
liver getting are filtering toxins. The way that I mean, you can watch documentaries on like the products they use in order to make it, and it is all toxins.
Yeah, I think as for steroids though, like there's just so many risks for it. To me, it's just not worth it. Even if you are going to be one of the best athletes in the world, it's also going to make it so like you put so much more stress on your body in the long term.
Yeah.
And most of those athletes, although they are very well educated on it, they still like they put so much stress on their body in general that in the long run it's probably going to be detrimental. I mean, there's always going to be outliers where it doesn't, like people are okay, but you hear like tons of stories of people who pass away from taking steroids or just abusing steroids. Now, of course, those are like some of the outliers too, where they really go crazy. But really, anyone just like the stress on your heart, the stress on your whole body, just all of that extra load. It's usually not a good thing.
No.
I
Shout
think
out
I sort of
Cosmo in
went
the
in
back
circles
who was
there.
causing a little chaos for a moment over there. That was fun.
Yep. Yep.
But no, when it comes down to it, like would I personally take steroids? No, because I mean I don't feel like I need them, and there's no inherent reasoning for me to take them. I'm not competing at those kinds of levels, so it would just be more like for recreational purpose. But no, I wouldn't take them. But you also have to weigh in the factors of like it's the risk reward ratio that you have to look at. Now, also to mention right now, like recreational use of steroids like that is considered illegal. So there's no safe way to monitor and take this.
Yeah.
You have to go to a doctor to get the right amount and whatnot, and it has to be medically necessary. So right now, overall, medically, no, not the greatest idea, but I don't think there's.
I will say too, just to interject quick.
Yeah,
You said you made a good point that maybe the top athletes that want to be the best of the best of the best have like some reason to do it, but like a normal person walking around the street, like there's no reason to do steroids. Like you're
yeah,
gonna get in very good shape just from doing exercise, eating healthy. You might
mhm,
not be like the biggest person ever, like The Rock, but you're gonna be like probably more fit than most people with just simply eating healthy and exercising.
yeah. And I don't like the like. I always feel bad. I used to be somebody about like who would put the stigma of just like, oh, like they got that good looking because of steroids. And that's not the case. Even with steroid use, like you have to still put in work. You're gonna just see more less linear progress and more like exponential progress all of a sudden, but you still have to put in the work. So it's steroids isn't gonna like change everything, but it definitely is a help and additive to.
Yeah, and like genetics is a big factor.
Of course.
So some people just have like the insertions of their muscles just make it look better than others. Like for me, for whatever reason, my calves look great. Uh, but maybe like I don't know, my biceps are never going to be that huge just because I have long arms.
And this honestly takes us into the next point of natural bodybuilding. The next prompt is natural bodybuilding is the only honest form of bodybuilding. Aaron, would you agree or disagree with that?
Um, I I think I would disagree. So I think that you can be an honest bodybuilder and be on the juice. Like there's plenty of people that take steroids and everybody knows it and they're very open about it.
Mm.
They like there's a lot of people too. Like there's one guy on the Jubilee episode that even said that like he has a podcast and he talks about steroid use and how to do it properly so that people don't do what he did, which is when he first started, he abused it all the time and
Blast. Yeah.
felt terrible. Like he said he was depressed for like a year. Or I don't know if that was a steroid. I think they had him take something else. I forget what the drug was. But basically, he was told by his coach to take something, and it just made him feel terrible for like a year. And he couldn't figure it out. And it turned out it was the stuff that they had him take.
Mm.
Um, so sort of one off topic for a second there, but back to the prompt that bodybuilding is the only honest form of bodybuilding. If you tell people that you're taking it, I don't see why it's not honest.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I do think it's dishonest when there's a lot of people who are, oh, I'm a natural bodybuilder, and
And they're
they're not.
yeah.
Um,
But
but
also at the
like,
same time, like the other honesty part of it is just like like I was just mentioning before, even if you take steroids, you still have to put in the work. It's not like the muscle is going to be like, oh, I'm going to inject myself and bam, 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 bam. Like now I look like freaking Captain America when he came out of the damn tube.
Yeah,
Um, it takes work, and as long as you're open
yeah,
and honest about it, and you know, if you are what you call it, a non-natural bodybuilder, and you make record of that, and that's yeah. I
yeah,
get skeptical when guys try to, and I've seen it before where they take steroids and during that time they'll say like no, like they're taking steroids, but then they'll be off of it for like a month and they'll be like, yeah, no, I'm natural. Yeah, you're natural now, but you didn't get there naturally. Like that's the difference. You can't jump it like that. That's
yeah.
the dishonest
I
portion.
mean, and without a doubt, steroids, like the people that take steroids are always going to be bigger than the people that don't. Like it does give you a very big boost.
Yeah,
Um, but it's like when you get to the best of the best, it's hard to not do something like that. Even athletes, like they get away with it all the time.
yeah.
Like you heard John Jones got caught taking, I think it was TRT. No, he got caught taking some type of drugs a bunch of times. And then there's a lot of athletes that just get away with it all the time. Like you hear in the UFC, tons of people take it, and then like no one gets caught.
Yeah,
And it's
because
the same thing with any sport, honestly.
they start to figure out the testing and the cycling and whatnot. So they kind of know when like, okay, we're most likely to get tested in this range. So if anything, that's now the sport has to change in a sense in order for like the regulations need to change. So they need to switch all that up. So not to say to catch these guys, but in a sport like the UFC, if some guy's taking steroids and the other guy's not, there's a clear disadvantage. That's
Yeah,
when it comes to bodybuilding, okay. But you're literally getting in the ring to pummel somebody.
yeah.
You,
Like this would be a different question if it was about sports or
yeah,
not sports. Not that bodybuilding's obviously a sport, but if it was about more
contact.
like yeah, contact sports.
Yeah, more aggressive.
But start to steer back to these prompts. The next one was the body positivity movement has gone too far. Do you know much about the body positivity movement?
Uh, uh, to an extent, but go ahead and educate.
So
Before I critique the
basically,
wrong thing.
the body positivity movement, if you look at it from when it first came out, it was basically for amputees, things like that, where you had an issue with your body and there was nothing you could do about it. Maybe burn victims too. So they wanted you to be proud of your body, regardless of what happened. So amputees proud that even though they don't have their leg, they can still do a lot of stuff. They're very functional. Same thing with burns. Like your face might not look like it was before, but there's going to be people who love you.
Hmm.
The problem with it is that nowadays a bunch of obese people are starting to say, "Oh, I'm fat and I'm proud. Being fat is healthy." Like healthy at every size is another, I think, sort of name for the body positivity movement. So basically, like kids will see people in magazines that are 400 pounds, and the magazine will say, "Oh, this person's healthy." When everything we know about obesity, just given all research, is obesity is bad.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that the body positivity movement has gone too far. I would say that it's just been manipulated at that point. Because the original body positivity movement still remains the same. It's that people are now just kind of twisting it in a sense. And like I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but there's just certain things that when you hit certain weight limits that like it's you're not healthy anymore. Now, in a steroid kind of sense of like is it kind of giving unrealistic views? Maybe to an extent, you get a younger kid who's seeing these like jacked up guys on social media and Instagram and whatnot. That constant like feed to the brain is just going to make them think like, oh, you know what? Like, yeah, I've been hitting the gym for like last 6 months, but I don't look like that, and I don't know if I ever will. That can start to push some unrealistic, unhealthy expectations. That's where it starts to get dangerous.
Yeah, like, there are definitely good aspects to it. Like you do want anyone to be happy with who they are, but
Yes.
you don't want someone to think that they're healthy when they're not either. Like with a person that's overweight, like you don't want them to feel bad. Like that most of the time isn't going to help them lose weight. If you're just like you're a tubber, you need to lose weight.
You have to
Uh,
be realistic about it as well. Like yes, you could be like happy and comfortable and confident in your own body, but you also need to be realistic. Like, okay, like we need to if we're pushing that 300-400 pound limit, we need to start making some changes.
yeah, even like the like high like 250s. Most people shouldn't even be 250,
Yep.
but I do think that in general, obesity has gone up in the last 20, 30, 40 years.
Mm.
And it's just something that we need to work better to mitigate and to have it less, I guess,
Yeah.
decrease the incidence in the US. Going sort of back to the prompt, I do think it's gone too far because of people being glorified who are so overweight. It's like that singer Lizzo talks about being like fat and proud all the time, and she's like huge. Like she might be able to like, dance and move around and do nice things now, but the amount of stress that you put on your joints when you have 300 pounds, it's like try putting a 100-pound bag on your back and just walk around and see how it feels.
Yeah.
And that's how it feels for that person all the time. And it makes sense. Like that's why people like who are so overweight are going to be like out of breath walking up the stairs, or maybe they'll have ankle pain, or maybe they'll have back pain. Like it usually does not have any good effects. Like
Yeah.
and us being like, oh no, you're good, you're healthy. Um, it's not. I just don't think it's a good thing.
No, I agree with that too.
Another thing that people talk about is that like they'll get a blood test, be like, my blood test looks good, so I'm healthy. Just because your blood test looks good does not mean you're necessarily healthy.
No, yeah. It's kind of like one of those like unfortunate ticking time bomb scenarios where like okay, like we're healthy for the moment, but it's only a matter of time until like the what system is under too much stress that's going to now cause detrimental factors.
Yeah, so like just going through a review of systems real quick, we're a person with obesity. First of all, your skeletal system is going to be more stress on your bones because there's more weight on your bones. Same thing goes for your muscle. You're going to have more weight, so you have more stuff to carry.
Hmm.
Overuse over time can happen just because you have so much weight that you're pushing around. So you can hurt your back, you can hurt your knees, your ankles.
Yeah.
Going into like your heart and your lungs, with your heart has to beat harder or push harder in order to get the blood where it needs to go. So pushing harder isn't necessarily a good thing if it's overworking and in the long run could work too hard, and then that's how you have a heart attack or something like that.
Yeah.
Going into pulmonology or your lungs, if there's a lot of just fat and stuff around your lungs, it makes it harder to expand. And we've heard a bunch of times about restrictive lung diseases, which is basically when your chest wall has trouble expanding. That can actually happen with obesity just because there's so much stuff in there, it's harder for it to expand.
Mhm.
Um, and I won't keep talking from there because I could probably talk for a while. But there,
Those are just some prime examples of things that can start to go wrong because of weight related issues.
and those are all things too that you might not see on a blood test.
Exactly. So, I mean, both views are, in my opinion, like your view on it, of it going too far is a good view. I know, Millie, it's getting late.
Yeah, you want to go?
But yeah, ultimately, I can see your side of it as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Back to the next prompt. Steroid use leads to unrealistic standards. I don't know why I couldn't read for a second, but steroid use leads to unexpected standards.
There's at least one big word
Yeah, that is a lot of big words.
there.
Something about an 11-hour workday makes you tired after. But what's your take on that, Aaron?
I absolutely think it does.
Yeah.
Like when you look at the biggest people ever, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I forget what the guy's Chris Bumstead is like a big one recently.
Yeah.
Even if you go
You've
into
been Mr. Olympia a
strongman,
few times.
yeah, even if you go into like strongman, like Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall,
Mhm.
Hafthor Bjornsson,
Mhm.
all of those people, they took steroids without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like they would be strong regardless, and they would look good regardless. But they got the boost to make them look the way they do, and it makes a person like me or you look at that and be like, oh, so that's what I want to be like. That's where I want to be in 5 or 10 years. And in reality, it's just not. It's not worth it. It's because like the amount of stress that you have on your body, even like looking into some strong men. I know it's a little bit of a different than like the bodybuilding here, but a lot of strong men just like have trouble breathing. Like you never see a strong man go out for a run. Like Eddie Hall actually does, but he like retired from strongman and he's like gone into other things and he actually lost a lot of weight since he was a strongman.
Yeah. And you
Even just
see like
looking
a
at
lot of them
pictures.
during those competitions. I mean, granted, yes, they're moving massive amounts of weight, but they're huffing and puffing. Like this cardiovascular system isn't going too well on them. But that also goes hand in hand with what I was talking about before. Like you were mentioning some of these guys who are very active on social media too, where even us as adults and seeing it, we know better. But you have these young kids who see these images of like bodybuilders that are all cut up and shredded up and whatnot, and they think like the only way that I can attain something like that is by taking steroids. And in some cases, it's true.
Hmm.
But a lot of just like hard work, dedication, years and years of time can get you similar results as well. So that's
Hmm.
where it gets dangerous as well. In my opinion, is when it starts to get pushed towards like young kids. And now I've heard numerous times, even coming into like my workplace, because I work in an outpatient clinic where I have kids who get injured in the gym and they come and talk to me. And I've had a couple of them openly admit to steroid use at the gym. And when I'm talking like kids who are like 16, 17, 18, 19.
I know when I played football, I had a few teammates that took steroids.
Yeah, so and it's getting a lot more, especially with social media. I feel like it's getting pushed a lot more easily now, unfortunately.
Yeah, because most of the time when you hear about someone taking steroids, you don't hear about the not only the training, but like the dosing, the like I'm pretty sure when you take steroids, you have on times and off times. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like you don't take it the whole year, you take
No,
it parts of the year.
they call them
So that
cycles. You go through
cycles.
cycles.
That's what I was trying to say. I couldn't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
But that's not part of like, oh, this guy takes steroids. It's just like, oh, they took steroids. I'll just do that, and then you don't know anything about it, and you do even more damage to your body because you're just not doing it properly.
You can really damage some organs is the biggest thing. If you don't know, not to say like I wouldn't recommend them in any sense because they can be detrimental to your body, but if you don't know how to use them, and I don't even want to say an appropriate manner, but use them in a recreational manner to protect yourself, you can go through and damage a lot of organs in your body too that are not recoverable.
Hmm. Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay.
Going into the next prompt, there is no such thing as too much muscle.
False. There is a thing, it's too much
Why? Why is
because
that?
this goes hand in hand when it comes to like BMI scales and like body weight scales. Now, a BMI scale, you'll hear me in numerous videos say how like I think it's kind of like a BS-ish kind of scale where it's like if I step on it, it's going to tell you that I'm like way overweight and borderline obese for my height and stature. Now, of course, the reason it's saying that is because it's calculating a certain measure in which your stature and weight should be. And if you go way beyond, like I'm 5'8". If I weighed 250 pounds, I'd end up being on the morbidly obese side. Now, if I was 250 pounds of pure muscle, you'd think like, okay, that's gonna be good. I'm gonna look like jacked up and ripped up. Downside is, again, we're going back to system reviews of your cardiovascular system is going to be working way overtime, way harder to pump blood to all of these muscles constantly, years and years out. And it's going to end up causing more detrimental effects, raising blood pressure, causing more cardiovascular issues than it is going to be helpful. And that's just one of the systems.
Yeah, so one big one that I heard of is actually having sleep apnea because you have so much muscle.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of famous like YouTubers and bodybuilders and strongman that I've heard have trouble with that. The first one I ever heard was Juji Mufu. He's like a YouTube guy who's known for like acrobatics, but also being super strong and super muscular.
Mhm.
There was one video I saw with him that he actually has to have a CPAP machine, which is basically just like a mask you wear on your face that gives you oxygen throughout the night because he has sleep apnea. And for those who don't know, sleep apnea, sleeping, obviously when you're sleeping, apnea means the pnea, Pnea, yeah, is breathing, and then A is like lack of.
Mhm.
So sleep apnea is lack of breathing when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So basically, that means if you're not breathing when you're sleeping, you're going to have a lack of oxygen to your brain, lack of oxygen to your muscles. And it's not like you're not breathing the entire night. It's more like you're not breathing for a second or two. But
Mhm.
that adds up. That's just more stress on every system in your body because it's just not getting the oxygen that it needs. And that's why you have to wear a CPAP machine. And like the CPAP does like make you sleep better and it mitigates a lot of the negative side effects of sleep apnea.
Yeah.
But even just decreasing your muscle will probably actually help that go away. It's the same thing with losing fat. If you lose fat, you'll probably have decrease, or there's a good chance your sleep apnea will decrease. like we've always said, like there's always outliers. Like you could have sleep apnea and be skinny, but it's just a lot more common when with people who are overweight or over muscled too.
Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
muscle is a lot of people think overweight is just in a sense of like fat content, which is the primary concern. Overweight via fat is very detrimental and bad. Now you can be to have two people who are the same weight and one person who has more fat, of course, is going to be not as healthy as the person who's the same weight, but has more muscle and less fat. And that's going to come down to body fat percentage, which is in a typical person and a non-steroid use person. That's why I don't like the BMI scale because it's not measuring them. So
Hmm.
that's why I don't look at that one so much. I like to look at more of the body fat percentage. But if you have someone who's the like two people who are the same weight, same height and stature, but one has like way too much muscle, and we're talking like someone who's like considered those morbidly obese states, someone my size who shouldn't weigh 300 pounds, but let's say I've got 300 pounds of muscle, which would look pretty sick. Um,
You'd
not
also have trouble walking up the stairs, most likely.
doorways are going to get really hard, harder than they are right now, right? So.
Plane seats also tough.
Exactly. So it starts to weigh in on a lot of different factors and systems as well.
Hmm.
And
Now our final prompt that we stole from Jubilee. Thank you. Natural bodybuilding is the future.
I don't really know if I have a say so much on this one. I would like it
Well,
to see. I'd like to see it be the future because I think it's pretty cool if you're able to do things without the assistance of steroids. In a sense, I think that that is kind of more. Again, not to take away from like the people using steroids that it's like you're not putting in like the hard work, but it's just it's just to see that like you were able to do it without having to use that extra help. I think it's pretty cool. So I'd like to see it in
yeah.
that direction, and it's healthy.
So, like, just going into bodybuilding a little bit, like there are natural bodybuilding associations where you like there's like Mr. Olympia for natural bodybuilding, and then there's Mr. Olympia for normal like IFBB pros who are all steroids and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so to me, I don't think it's the future. Like you said, like I would like it to be, but it's like all the records are there with steroids that just made people big and strong and look amazing.
Yeah.
Like I don't see how people are going to go backwards and be okay with it because they're going to be like, "Oh, this guy from 10 years ago was huge, but you're not. So why would
Yeah.
I want to look at you if you're not huge?"
Exactly. And you know, at the same time, they're starting to now like categorize like there's different categories where like steroid use is allowed in a certain category. Like
Yeah.
you say it's allowed, but they're like, oh, they're not going to test you. And then other ones where it's like, no, like they're going to test you and make sure that you're not using it. So they're trying to crack down on it, but we'll
Yeah, I
see.
mean there are different weight categories too. It's just when it comes down to it, once you've had them for such a long time,
Mhm.
it's hard to just erase history and
Yeah,
make people not want what it was before,
exactly.
especially when such amazing things were done before. Because, like you said, like they trained hard and they did a lot of stuff. Like all the famous people that were famous bodybuilders, like Jay Cutler or what's the guy? Why am I blanking on his name? The guy that could barely walk anymore.
Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, Ronnie Coleman. Um, that I mean, that's a whole other thing too. Like Ronnie Coleman's back is just like destroyed with all the years of steroid use of super intense training.
But let's go over
Um,
systems again real quick. The muscles got strong, but the integrity of the bones stayed the same. And actually, with steroid use, they found in certain research that the bone structure starts to get weakened. So,
so you,
yep.
you mean integrity of the bone got weaker?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's what you started to see with like Ronnie Coleman, especially like when you're putting that much weight in your back. Your neck isn't made to hold 400 or 500 pounds, and you just threw a barbell on it. Over time,
hmm
it's gonna break down. Can't
yeah. I
do
mean,
it.
some of it too is like bodybuilding over the years has gotten better, like more efficient. Like I do think that that's probably less likely to happen with bodybuilders now because they're just better educated than before. Like
Yeah.
it's just easy for us to look on YouTube. Oh, like maybe you don't have to do 800 or 900 pounds and get stronger or look better. Like
Yeah.
a lot of professional bodybuilders, like they can lift heavier weights, but they're not going to lift nearly as much as someone who does a specific movement to get that movement stronger.
Yeah. No,
Like
that's
they're just really trying to build muscles, and who cares if you can lift 200 pounds or 2 pounds as long as it builds a muscle.
exactly.
Um, but I think that's like pretty much everything we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, that covers it all, I think.
Is there anything else you're thinking of?
No, I mean obviously I'm gonna say as a healthcare provider, I don't recommend the use of steroids. If you do so choose to delve into it, please just consult medical providers for the appropriate and safest way for you to utilize them. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Hmm. And definitely, if you're thinking about starting the workout, like don't just jump right into it. It's more work out for 5 years before you even think about it. Like, see what you can do, like what your peak is naturally, and then based off of that, then maybe you can think about it. Or, like, I really wouldn't even recommend it unless you're going to try to be like the best of the best of the best.
Exactly.
Because if you're not, it's just like it's going to put so much more stress on your body in the long run. You're gonna probably feel it. Like it might not be 5 years from now. It might be like 20 years from now, where maybe just not everything functions the way it should. Maybe you're just in more pain than normal because you put all that stress on your body 20 years ago. So
Exactly.
just yeah, be careful about it. Be over cautious. I think if it was up to us, people wouldn't take it, but it's not up to us. It's up to you. It's up to what you think is best for you.
Stay
Um,
educated.
We wish you all the best. Stay safe with your lifting. Stay safe with your steroids if you take them, but we wouldn't recommend it. That's for sure. I think
Yeah.
that's it.
Have a nice day.
Yeah. Have a good one.